Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my channel, The World Channel of the World. Now, y'all mind if I get niche real quick? Remember Limitless, that 2011 movie with Bradley Cooper where he takes a drug called NZT that's pretty much superhuman Adderall and becomes perfect at everything? I love that movie, and I want to unhealthily talk about it for like 20-ish minutes, so shut up and listen. Please. I appreciate your viewership. The idea that there's this pill that unlocks your brain and turns you into the peak of humankind is really enticing to me. I don't know what it is. It gave me the same kind of joy as when I was a kid and I would use cheats in The Sims 2 to like max out all my stats and give myself unlimited money. I got that same rush of dopamine watching this movie. I don't know what that says about me, that I get a lot of pleasure out of taking shortcuts to success, but I'm gonna choose not to unravel that. The problem is there's only one Limitless movie, and after finishing it, I wasn't satisfied, all right? I wanted another 2 hours of watching someone take a pill and then becoming perfect at everything. And suddenly, to my chagrin, which I think I used correctly, but I'm not gonna search it up, I found out that there was a Limitless spin-off TV show with a nice fat 22 episodes. And this was perfect, you know, I thought I hit the damn lotto. I get to watch 22 more episodes of Super Freak Genius. So I watched a couple episodes and it kind of sucked, which was disappointing, but also not really, because spin-off TV shows of movies have been a thing for forever, and I feel like most of the time they kind of just suck. So while I was hoping that wasn't the case here, it wasn't really shocking. And I want to get into why I think that's always the case with spin-off shows and why this one sucked in particular. But in order to properly tell you why it sucked, I have to tell you why the Limitless movie was so good. So let's do that now. Limitless, baby! Let me take you through this movie real quick. So first we meet our main character, Eddie Mora. And our guy Eddie is pretty much a bum. He's an aspiring writer who has no job, he's an alcoholic, and his relationship is failing.
Just like that?
Come on, Eddie. This is hardly a surprise.
Scratch that, his relationship has failed. And he pretty much has nothing going on for himself except for the novel he's been trying to write for forever.
A few weeks passed this way. Maybe a few months.
And this scene is very triggering to me, because I don't know if you can tell by the frequency of my videos, but writer's block is something that I very much struggle with. Like, if you asked me if I liked writing, I would say, yeah. English was always my favorite subject, I love writing these videos. But if you really asked me, I would say, hell no, I hate writing, it's the bane of my existence. It makes me feel like a worthless, unfunny idiot who should crawl in a hole and die. Or something to that effect. So yeah, Eddie's life sucks. But then he runs into his ex-brother-in-law, Vernon, who used to be a drug dealer, but now is in the pharmaceutical industry, which just means eviler, richer drug dealer. So for old time's sake, he decides to help Eddie out by giving him this.
You know how they say that we can only access 20% of our brain? Well, what this does, it lets you access all of it. You know how much that costs? $800. Pop. You're welcome.
And I gotta be honest, Vernon's a real one. Because Eddie was married to his sister for like 2 seconds 9 years ago, so the fact that he gave him a life-changing $800 pill on the house just because, I respect you, Vernon. It's too bad you're about to die. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little. First, Eddie takes the pill, and then it happens. The superhuman Adderall starts setting in. Colors are more vibrant, senses dialed up to 1,000,000, an indescribable mental clarity, every single memory or moment you've ever experienced instantly accessible in your brain, IQ shot up by like 1,000 points. Our boy Eddie has just transformed from bum to super genius bum.
Information from the Odd Museum show, a half-read article, some PBS documentary. It was all bubbling up in my frontal lobes, mixing itself together into a sparkling cocktail of useful information.
And now comes my absolute favorite part of the movie.
I wasn't high, wasn't wired, just clear. I knew what I needed to do and how to do it.
This, dude, this! The idea that I can take a pill and instantly, without struggle, write chapters of a novel in one night when I've been struggling to write one sentence for months, that is true euphoria for me. Because the same way there's a runner's high, there's also a writer's high, where after all the stress and anguish of writer's block, you're on the other side of it now and you finally hit that flow state. Give me every single drug on the planet, legal and otherwise, none of them feel as good as a writer's high does. So the idea that I can skip all the agony that comes before it and just get to the good stuff, yeah, bro, I'ma need that. I'm gonna need that for real. Okay, so now it's the next morning. We're back in the bum world, unfortunately. But Eddie still has finished chapters of his book. So he drops it off to his publisher and she ends up loving it.
Okay, how did you do this? I really like. Just call me the minute you get in. Call, okay?
So after witnessing this, what is our boy Eddie gonna do? Well, he's gonna try to re-up on that Adderall, obviously. Which brings us back here. Vern is dead. By the way, Bradley Cooper, that was a pretty good shock fall. Not a lot of actors are good at shock falls. So, freaked out, Eddie calls the cops and he assumes that whoever did this was looking for some Adderall too. But, did they find it? There's only one way to find out. So Eddie looks all over the place trying to find the Adderall, like your friends look for their vapes when you hide them, and luckily he finds them, as well as a client list and a fat wad of cash just before the cops come. And now comes the fun part. Super genius montage time, baby. Our boy Eddie gets a fresh cut, some new suits, finishes his book in 4 days, no prob, learns the piano, learns multiple languages, gets super charismatic, makes friends with rich finance people, starts trading stocks. He kind of just becomes a master at everything.
My brain was just pouring this stuff out. Everything I'd ever read, heard, seen was now organized and available. Here it is, here you go.
But here's where the trouble starts, because now that his brain is just sort of unlocked, he's way past being a writer now. That almost feels beneath him.
Suddenly, I knew exactly what I needed to do. It wasn't writing. It wasn't books. It was much bigger than that.
He wants to make real change in the world. And how do you do that? Money. And trading stocks with the money he has now, well, it's growing, but it's growing too slow for him. You know, he needs more capital. And since he can't get any sort of bank loan because his credit score is probably in the single digits, he instead gets a Russian mob loan of $100,000 on a very reasonable interest rate.
You don't pay, you know what we do? I cut you at waist, peel your skin up over your head and tie a knot in it. You don't die from this. You suffocate.
Okay.
Good luck.
But don't worry, that's not gonna be much of a problem for him because he earns like $2 million by the end of the week. Must be nice. Eddie Mora. Eddie's life has taken a complete 180 at this point. He has a cushy new job now, working with Robert De Niro to close a historic business merger. He got his relationship back and it's going better than ever. The possibilities are endless now, and his life is kind of perfect.
I finally had my shot. Wall Street would provide my nest egg. But then how far could I go? CEO? A global force? Maybe president? Time somebody shook up the free world and got things done.
But it's not all perfect. As a matter of fact, I lied. Most of it is terrible. Because while there is a lot of good going on, there's also a lot of bad. Now, Eddie's kind of living this double life of being a brilliant, silver-tongued prodigy financier by day, but being a sickly, dying gremlin who's getting mysteriously followed by bad guys by night. So, yeah. Couple minor side effects. Yeah guys, unfortunately, superhuman Adderall is not perfect. You still get that Adderall crash like the normal stuff. But instead of just feeling tired and lethargic, you'll instead experience extreme fatigue, nausea, mental fog, headaches, blackouts, anxiety, irritability, organ failure, and possibly, most likely, probably definitely death. And probably worst of all, you'll get this depressing color grade. And well, nobody wants that. So yeah, when Eddie's on the pill, his life is amazing. But when he's not, it's falling apart. He's getting worse every day. He goes through Vernon's client list just to realize they all died from taking the Adderall.
Yeah, hello, it's Paul Kaplan there.
Paul passed away 3 days ago.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
He keeps getting chased by this mysterious dude, and oh, remember Russian mobster guy? Well, he took one of Eddie's Adderalls, and now he keeps showing up and demanding more.
I want some more of that stuff. But I shoot you right here. Take your pick.
This guy was not going away.
And while all this stuff is going on, let's address the elefante in the room. Eventually, he's gonna run out of these pills. But I mean, does that even matter? You know, he's dying. Shouldn't he stop taking them? But he has this complicated finance job, so he has to take them. But his life keeps spiraling from the side effects, and creepy dude is chasing him, and Russian dude keeps taking his lunch money. Everything's going wrong. What is he gonna do? Well, I hate to break it to you, but it doesn't get much better. His lawyer ended up stealing his Adderall and blew up the big merger he's been working on, so yeah, that's down the pooper. And now the Russian mobster guy has come to collect. Because Eddie doesn't have any more pills, so he's gonna do what Russian mobster guys do when you don't give them stuff and torture him. So Eddie decides I would rather not experience that, so he's just gonna take the easy way out. But just before he's about to jump, he vaguely remembers that, wait a minute, I think I have one more pill left. And that's enough for him, so he goes to get it. So while Rush is breaking down the door, he frantically looks for it and finds it at the very last second, but he drops it and down the drain it goes. So now it's torture time. Yeah, Russian mobster guy ties him up and injects some Adderall that he melted right into his bloodstream.
You see, I dissolve in a solution. It goes straight into the blood and brain. Lasts much longer.
Then, while the other goons look for more pills, he's getting ready to get to work. But he doesn't get to work. He gets stabbed. Which personally is what I think we all should do to our loners. So while Russian mobster guy's bleeding out, Eddie thinks to himself, wait a minute, there's Adderall in this guy's bloodstream. So let me just go Twilight real quick and drink it. His name ain't Edward for nothing. Which was a smart idea, Eddie, but you were dealing with a Russian mobster, so chances are you contracted about 25-ish diseases. Long story short, Eddie outsmarts and kills the other bad guys, finds a new stash of Addies, and makes a better version of it.
See, once you know what's in it, you can tweak it, re-engineer it, get the bugs out, taper off. I'm off it, Carl.
Then he runs for senator to continue on his mission to fix the world, and the end. I kind of rushed through it a little bit, but it's a great movie. Bradley Cooper was captivating, and I personally love that instead of having Eddie die at the end, which I feel like a lot of writers would have did, he actually wins and gets a happy ending. As a drug addict. And I love that, because I want to believe in my brain that I can take those pills and have the same happy ending that Eddie did. So good job. Good job. Gold stars all around, Limitless. But now let's move on to your twin brother, the Limitless TV show. The Limitless TV show came out in 2015 on CBS and sadly got canceled after just one season. And honestly, as cable TV shows go, it's not horrible. It's totally watchable, and it even has a lot of good reviews online. But when I was watching it, it wasn't that good to me. I don't know. And listen, this is a cable TV show with 22 episodes, so obviously it's not gonna be as cinematic as the movie, and the acting might not be as good, the story might not be as good. I feel like that's kind of to be expected with cable TV shows. But the reason I don't like this show is because I feel like it really mishandled the whole Limitless premise. But before I get into comparing the two, let me take you through the show first. Now these are 40-minute episodes, so I'm not really gonna go in depth on any of these. I'm just gonna kind of give you the key points. I don't know what this is. Now the first episode is pretty much a carbon copy of the movie. The plot was very similar to the start we saw with Eddie, just with a few differences. In the show, our main character is this guy, Brian Finch. And just like Eddie, he's also a bum who, instead of being an aspiring writer, is an aspiring artist.
So that's the thing, I wouldn't really call it a band per se. It's a project, and it has its own name, but I'm the only one involved. So we're self-releasing.
So just a loser in a different font. And just like Eddie, he runs into a guy from his past who offers him a pill. Then you get the idea, superhuman genius montage. He wakes up the next day, needs more Addies, finds out the supplier was killed. See, I told you, not a lot of actors are good at shock falls. And then this is where we branch out a little bit into the show's original plot. Brian actually gets caught by the FBI at the crime scene, but uses the last Adderall he found to run away, then goes to figure out who the killer is to clear his name. He finds the killer, gets shot by the killer, then runs away, passes out, and wakes up here in an empty warehouse where, that's right, our main boy Eddie is back to steal the show.
Oh, her bedside manner is a little unorthodox,
But you are in expert hands. It's about time you and me talked.
Peak MCU style intro, Eddie. 10 out of 10. Now Eddie's a senator running for president, and he's still hell-bent on solving the world. He tells Brian that he's been watching him ever since he was wanted by the FBI, and he developed these shots that he takes every month to completely remove the side effects of the pill.
Every so often, you take one of these shots, and you can have as much NZT as you want with no side effects.
He wants Brian to eventually work for him, so he gives him a shot, but he can't tell anyone about this, or, well...
This conversation is here and now and nowhere else. You describe it to the FBI, to your parents, to anyone. I will let you die more painfully and slowly than you can fathom.
Yeah, Eddie's a lot darker in this show. All right, fast forward. Brian proves he's innocent and clears his name, and it turns out the FBI's been trying to engineer their own pill for years now.
Brian's immune to the side effects of taking NZT.
You want to study Brian to figure out how to make a safe version of the drug.
This is an arms race, Rebecca, and Brian could help us win it.
Congrats, Brian, you are now an FBI consultant. And oh, this is Rebecca Harris, by the way. She's an FBI agent who's basically in charge of Brian and shows him the ropes and stuff. And her whole thing is that her dad died on the Adderall.
I think my father was on NZT that night. And if I can figure out where it comes from, maybe I can figure out what happened to him.
She's also Lisa from White Chicks.
Hi, I'm Cellulite Sally. Look at my huge badonkey.
Okay, so that was episode 1, and from here on, it kind of just turns into your average episodic law enforcement show. Every episode has the same structure of the FBI giving him a pill every morning, and then he has to solve some sort of crime by the end of it. So I'll spare you of the 90% of boring crime stuff and just give you the 10% of juicy season storyline stuff. Let's go. So Brian tells his fam about his cushy new FBI job, but his dad is suspicious because he's used to his son being a loser.
There's so much going on with you lately. There is something that you're not telling me, and I am not going to play along when you're lying to me.
This causes a rift between them, and then Brian finally decides to fess up to his dad, but then he finds out that his dad's nurse is the same nurse that gave him his shot, and he's actively being monitored. So he holds his tongue. Next episode. Brian meets Sands.
I'm your new boss.
Not Sands, but Sands. Like sand at the beach. Just plural. And Sands is basically Eddie's right-hand man that does all his dirty work. AKA, we can't afford Bradley Cooper for more than a few episodes, so we're just gonna use this guy instead. And he basically tells Brian, you're gonna do what I say, when I say, how I say it, or I'm gonna kill you and everyone you love. Next episode. We got our first mission from Sands.
We know quite a lot about NZT, our side of the fence. FBI's playing catch up. I want you to find out exactly what they know and bring it to me.
And Brian's conflicted, because he doesn't want to go to jail for treason, and he also doesn't want to betray Rebecca, because they're becoming good friends now. So he tries to fake it and make up the files himself. Sands knew it was fake and gave his dad a virus that sends him to the hospital.
Sorry to hear about your dad. I want the real files, Brian. And I want them tomorrow.
Lesson learned, Sands ain't messing around. So Brian steals the real files, and before giving them to Sands, he looks at them to see that they have a file on Rebecca's dad. OMG, next episode. Brian wants to tell Rebecca about her dad's file, but he can't because she would know that he stole them and Sands would kill everyone. So Brian asks Sands about Rebecca's dad, and he basically says,
I said forget about it, cuz.
But after all the guilt, Brian decides to tell her anyways. Brian tells Rebecca about her dad, and now they're secretly working together to find out more. Sands feels like Rebecca's starting to become a distraction, so he tells Brian to frame her for stealing the files. Brian doesn't do it, but now he's starting to get side effects real bad because he's due for another booster shot, but they're not going to give him one until he frames Rebecca. What a moral conflict. Brian insists on not framing Rebecca, which leads to his side effects getting so bad that he passes out and wakes up to see our boy Eddie again. Eddie basically says, it was just a test, bro. I just wanted to see if you were a yes man or someone with real integrity. So he gives him the booster and a few extra pills as a reward. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Finally! We got a big juicy lore episode. Okay, so now we meet Piper, who also takes the pill and used to work for Eddie, but went rogue. And she's real close to replicating the booster shot that gets rid of your side effects. She tries to assassinate Eddie, but being the badass he is, he anticipates this and dodges it. Piper tells Brian that Eddie's the bad guy, and Eddie tells Brian that Piper's the bad guy. Brian ends up helping Piper fake her death, and she leaves the country to figure out this whole booster shot thing. And uh-oh, Rebecca's starting to get a little suspicious that Eddie's also on the pill. That's not good for Brian. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Sands says, alright, I've had enough of this Rebecca chick, and tries to hire her to work for Eddie on security detail for a ridiculous amount of money so she'll stop trying to take him down. Rebecca says, no, I don't take money from bad guys like you did. I'm on to you guys. And so Sands bugs her apartment to monitor her. We find out that Sands is the one who killed Rebecca's dad. Whoa. Brian and Rebecca get into a fight because she can tell that he's lying to her about something. He also gets cut off from his entire family because they don't like this dangerous life that he's falling into. This is a lot for Brian, so he decides to take the extra pills that Eddie gave him and leave the country to find Piper to help her make that booster shot. Brian finds Piper in Russia, and they work together to steal a radioactive plant that's needed for the booster shot. They also do it. Meanwhile, in the US, Rebecca connects the dots between Brian and Sands and figures out that they're working together. Brian comes back to the US while Piper finishes the booster shot in Russia, and the FBI is real mad at Brian for going MIA like that, so now he has to work with stricter rules. Brian and Rebecca make up, but she's secretly monitoring him and sees that he meets up with Eddie. Rebecca detains Brian and makes him fess up to everything. And to make sure he's not outsmarting her, she takes a pill herself. While all this is going on, Sands finds out that Piper's still alive, so he kidnaps her and forces her to make the booster shot for him. Now Sands is going rogue and building his own supervillain team to rule the world. Also, Brian's booster shot is starting to wear off again, so he can't take the pill anymore and gets fired from the FBI. Sands and his supervillain team are mass producing the pill and pumping it into the streets, so now there's a whole drug crisis going on and people are dying from the side effects. The FBI is trying to fix this Adderall crisis, and Brian's trying to find Piper not only for the shot, but because he loves her. Aww. So with the little immunity he has left, he buys an Adderall from a dealer to find Piper. Eddie and the FBI work together one last time to find Sands and Piper. They eventually do. Rebecca kills Sands, Piper is saved and gives Brian a permanent booster shot that rids him of the Adderall side effects forever. Then she runs off to continue doing Save the World stuff, and Brian goes back to work with the FBI. And that, my friends, is Limitless Season 1. And like I said, totally watchable, right? You guys are probably sitting there thinking, Randy, that sounds like a pretty interesting show. And you would be right to think that, but that's only because I told you the most interesting parts and left out all the bad stuff. So now it's finally time to compare the two, so I can tell you why I really don't like the show. There are multiple reasons why the show was a disappointment for me. The first of them being, it was just a basic law enforcement show. Like, really? That's the best you could come up with? I just feel like there were so many cooler premises they could have went with this world. It could have been a prequel of showing us the scientists who invented the pill, or it could have been a Breaking Bad sort of thing where a guy finds a stash and uses it to build up his drug empire. Hell, they could have made it an anthology show, you know, where every episode we see a new person find the pill and see what they do with it. One episode could be funny, one could be tragic, suspenseful, trippy. There's so many more like creative options there. But instead, they just made it another version of every other CBS show that was airing at the time. Like, that's what really disappointed me about this show, you know? It didn't really feel like a continuation or spin-off of Limitless, which is what I wanted. It felt like CSI if the main character was Harvey Specter, but he was a loser. It just felt lazy. You know, like the Limitless premise would have been so much better if it was like a Netflix show. Like, I don't know why it was wasted on this. The show just felt unnecessary, you know? And I feel like that kind of applies to all spin-off shows in one way or another. Because by nature, spin-off shows have to be destructive to the original story, at least a little bit. Because they need to find a way to write themselves out of what was supposed to be a finished conclusion. Very rarely can you do that without either A, damaging the original story, or B, having a show that's just not as good as the original story. And that's exactly what happened here. But my biggest gripe with this show, other than the fact that it was boring and pointless, was that it really didn't do justice to the pills the way the movie did. And I mean, visually, conceptually, logically, all the leads. Because in the movie, when Eddie takes a pill, it's kind of a big deal, right? Because one, he has a limited supply, and two, it's killing him.
It's really simple, babe. I need my pill.
So before anything else happens, just the very nature of him taking the pill is creating conflict. But when he's on it, he transforms into a completely different person. You know, he's suave, he's a genius, he's extremely charismatic and confident, he never makes mistakes. He feels like the smartest, most electric person in the room by far. It almost feels euphoric, you know? Like, there's a reason why I wanted more Limitless when I finished the movie, because those scenes were so entertaining to watch. But in the show, everything's just worse. Because for one, Brian is being supplied with these pills, you know, so there's no worry about him running out. And for most of the show, there's no danger in him taking them because he has the shot. So already two of the most interesting conflicts with the pill are gone. And when he's on the pill, he doesn't like transform into this hyper-evolved version of himself. He acts exactly the same. He's still like clumsy and socially awkward and makes bad jokes. Like, just look at this comparison between Eddie getting into a fight on the pill and Brian.
Attack the sensitive areas, the eyes, the throat, the groin.
And like, sure, I guess that's funny a little bit, but doesn't that just go against what we've already established the pill is supposed to do? Like, isn't the whole point that you get so enlightened that stuff like that just wouldn't happen? Never at one point in the show did I feel like Brian was some sort of visionary or otherworldly intellect. He just kind of always felt the same. It even got to a point that there were certain scenes where I couldn't tell if he was supposed to be on the pill or off it. I feel like that shouldn't happen, right? Like, the movie made it a point to make it feel extremely depressing when Eddie was sober. They wanted you to feel as addicted to the high as Eddie was. And I never felt that on the show, you know? Visually, the color grading doesn't feel that euphoric, and the way they choose to portray his high comes off as a little goofy. They do lean into the sort of stylized editing that the movie has, but a little too much. Like, it almost feels a little too zany for my taste. Also, Brian constantly has these thought hallucinations where he like sees people as he's thinking things through. It's usually another version of him giving himself advice, but it even comes in the form of other people too.
I'm not sure what I'm doing here, but these things really make me itchy.
Join Team Badass, Ike. You get cool leather jackets.
leather sticks to my skin.
All right, enough! Which never happened in the movie. Like, yeah, we saw multiple Eddies from time to time, but it was more to show the passage of time, or his enhanced perception of time. It wasn't like an active hallucination that he was communicating with. And in the show, they changed it so that that's just kind of how the pill works now.
When you're on NZT, do you ever see things?
Oh yeah, all the time. You know, one time, you showed up as Sloan from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Which doesn't really work because it makes it feel like he's still dumb and like needs these imaginary people to tell him what to do. And I know it's all in his head, so it is him thinking, but it doesn't portray him as smart.
Bill Bryan is leaving instructions for me now. It sounded like he thought he was talking to a different person. And I don't like that.
Overall, the show's Adderall just felt like a watered down version of the movie's Adderall. There were countless times where regular people were pointing out clues to Brian that he didn't catch. And again, the whole point of the pill is that you're supposed to be like perfect when you're on it. You're supposed to be instantly capable of anything. Nothing should slip by you the way that it constantly does with Brian. It just doesn't feel like a life-changing pill here the same way it does in the movie. And I feel like the writers of the show didn't even view it as some sort of life-changing pill. Because towards the end of the season, when Sands releases it into the streets, they treat it almost like a psychedelic drug that's just fun to experience for the night, rather than something that'll change your whole perception of what's possible.
From a new source, I tried it myself this morning and it was like, damn, Daniel. About a free cent.
Long story short, the show made the Adderall whack. And as a matter of fact, the biggest example of this and sin of this show is this. I physically recoiled when I saw this.
The FBI put me on finding avenues to nail Zhang, but I couldn't help thinking about Arthur.
You're procrastinating, believe me, I've been there. Well, Sands gave me 3 days to dig up some files.
You're procrastinating? You're procrastinating? I want you to listen to me, Craig Sweeney, Mark Goffman, and Jenna Richmond. Those are even your real names. Do you understand that the main appeal of this pill for me was the idea that it would completely eliminate procrastination? That as soon as I take this pill, I will have an unimaginable surge of motivation and focus? That is like an ADHD person's wet dream. And now you're telling me that that can still happen on the pill? No, I reject that notion. And I reject this show because I have a dream, okay, of a stronger pill. Not one that makes me slightly sharper, but one that makes me magnetic, brilliant, unstoppable. I wish not to watch Brian Finch simply trying his best, but to watch Eddie Mora rewriting the rules of reality. I'm not asking for clarity. I'm demanding transcendence. I have a dream of a reality where my intelligence knows no bounds, where my charisma flows as easily as thought, where I don't just think faster, I become something more. I choose not the watered down version. I choose to be limitless. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the show. It was a pretty big disappointment. But yeah, that's about it for me. Thanks for letting me yap about a movie and its spin-off show that nobody really cares about. I needed to get that off my chest. And I have to use you guys, because you're the only friends I have. And leave a comment down below if you've also watched the show, because I need to know if you agree with me. Because the fact that this show actually does have good reviews online did blow my mind a little bit. Like, it made me feel like I was going crazy, all right? And I'm not going crazy, they're going crazy. I'm not going crazy, they're going crazy. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you legally want to be better than everybody else. I'll also swing you my Hulu password. I pay for the one with no ads. And stay tuned for my next video where I take 40 real Adderall pills to see if I can get the same effect. Can't wait to see what I accomplish. All right, see you in the next one. Bye.